So Facebook Studio is a new platform that we're launching in the next couple of weeks, and it's essentially a portal designed primarily for agencies, although clients will have access to. And when you come into it, you come into it, become part of it, you have to connect. So you use your Facebook ID to connect in through it. And what creative agencies are going to start to do is to upload creative, best practices, case studies, ideas, things they've done with brands. And then what's going to happen is that this starts to bubble through the social graph, and people start liking. And the more likes that a creative will get, it'll bubble up into the spotlight section. And so the idea is, how do you share and create work around the world without borders, so that people in Canada can see what's going on in Sao Paulo down in Brazil, or the folks in Singapore, or in Tokyo, or in France. It's all being shared through the social graph that the creative community and the advertising community has. Right? Remember, we're all, for the people we're friends with, are more likely than not probably part of the industry we work in. So how do we enable that, so that it becomes a whole different kind of experience versus any other portal that's out there? Included in that will be lots of information, all the latest communications, all the new products that are coming out. It'll all be designed to go through this community versus relying on emails being sent and PowerPoints and things like that. We just think, how do we bring real-time information sharing?
You gave a good analogy during your talk about how a lot of people consider Facebook pages. Well, you said it's like shaking the salt. Yeah. Explain what you meant.
Yeah, so when we talk to lots of different people around the world, and we say, what's your social media strategy? And sometimes people look and say, well, we have a page, right? Or I put a like button onto my website. And these are things that are kind of basics, but as we'd say, the campaign wasn't built that way. They basically have a campaign that they're doing through a variety of different traditional or digital, platforms, whatever it might be. And the shaking the salt is sticking the like button on it, right? Or building the page and just letting it sit. It's kind of, it's there, it's noticeable, but it's not meaningful. It's not going to add real value to users' lives or brands' lives, for that matter.
It's a little bit of flavor on top of what could be something.
Exactly right.
All right, so given that you're then now trying, Facebook is actively reaching out to agencies through your initiative, what can agencies and in turn their clients do to get past just shaking the salt? What should be step 2 and 3 and 4 in terms of using various Facebook products, or what do they need to understand to really make brands come alive online?
I think there's a fundamental shift, right? And there's a couple things that are going on, so bear with me for a second.
Yeah.
There's a fundamental shift in that this concept of people, right, and the wisdom of friends versus wisdom of crowds, and it's forcing us to shift from pure broadcast models into actually listening. And consumers are now empowered; they have a voice in a way that they've never had a voice before. And we keep hearing this: you have to listen, you have to listen, you have to listen, and brands have to be more authentic around the world. The brands that are leaning forward really understand what that means, right? So they're engaging users all the way, everything from product development all the way up through just getting feedback. They're listening, they're engaging, they're having dialogue. So within our world, what that means is it's not a campaign anymore. It's a commitment. It's a commitment to managing a community, which can be a really valuable community, because in most cases, it's your most valuable consumers have raised their hand. Your brand ambassadors, the people that really appreciate, have raised their hand and said, I want to like your page, or I want to connect with you. Right? That is what's going on. What typically will happen is someone will build a page and then just let it sit.
Yeah.
The concept of community management is something that's very, very new. I think there's still a lot of dialogue and questions as to who owns that community. Does the brand own it? Does the PR agency own it? Does the media agency own it? Does some new organization, does the ad agency, who owns and what's the voice of that community going to be? That has to be determined, right? Because if you put a page up and you just let it sit there and you don't bring any value to people's lives, it's shaking salt.
Yeah.
Right? So understanding who's going to manage that ongoing communication strategy, and then planning it just like you would your regular marketing platform. So when we work with some of the leading brands who are really doing some great stuff, what they're thinking about is when they're using their television, when they're doing print, when they're doing outdoor, when they're doing radio, when they're doing other digital, how do they weave their Facebook community through that? Right? How do they use that as a way to embrace and engage with users in a way that most other environments just can't?